Legend of Exorcism. Chapter 107. Explosive scattering of goo poison. Hung Jun's head spun dizzily, and he felt as if he was about to throw up. He shook his head vigorously, while off to one side, Li Jinglong pushed himself up, dripping wet, calling out, "Hung Jun! Hung Jun!" Hung Jun's head ached so much that it felt like it was splitting, and he watched that goo now chase after Li Bai in every direction, calling up almost all of the wine in the pool and sending it slamming down at Li Bai. Li Bai, however, seemed to be imbued with divine power, and he raced along the walls of the cavern. The level of the wine gathered in the pool had dipped noticeably, and the huge kun was now beached. The throwing knife on its body was still sending out constant shocks, and the wine came flowing ceaselessly out from its mouth, pooling at the bottom of the empty pool. Its eyes opened marginally, and it blinked, before suddenly widening its eyes. "Li Jinglong, raise your sword," the huge kun's voice resounded in Li Jinglong's brain. "Stab your sword into the energy flow of the earth vein." Li Jinglong. With great difficulty, Li Jinglong struggled to his feet. Hung Jun asked blearily, "Who?" "Hung Jun, turn around and start to crawl, and when you hit your head, call out your pentacolor sacred light." At this moment, Hung Jun was so drunk that he was completely out of it, and he instinctively did as he was told. He turned and began to crawl slowly, and not long after, he hit his head, seemingly on the wall of the cavern, and as his head spun dizzily, he called up the pentacolor sacred light. "When I say rise," the kun god said solemnly, lightning flashing from its eyes, "Li Jinglong will stab the sword in. When I say withdraw, Hung Jun will give it a slap." "Give who a slap?" Hung Jun asked drunkenly. "Li Bai, turn," the kun god bellowed. "Slash with your sword." Li Bai was currently in the middle of being chased by the goo now, and he was racing along. When he heard this bellow that hit him like a blow over the head, he immediately grew dumbfounded. He didn't know who was talking. But when the goo now realized that the huge kun had woken, it immediately turned its head, a look of horror appearing in its eyes. Right then, Li Bai turned around reflexively in the air, shouting, "This is a glaive." With that single moment of hesitation, the goo now completely ignored Li Bai as it called up all of the wine that had left the pool, trying to send it back in. Li Bai, however, slashed down at it from behind with a mighty blow, and the glaive drew out a glowing arc through the air, as if it traced out the outline of a full moon in the air. Instantly, the goo now was split into two, and as it wailed in pain, it turned into a mass of flying bugs that scattered. The kun god then shouted, "Rise!" Li Jinglong viciously stabbed his sword into the wall of the cavern, and the sword of wisdom immediately began to absorb the energy of the earth veins with wild abandon. Li Jinglong, who was holding the sword, immediately began to glow with a brilliant light. The heart lamp protected his heart meridian, while his entire body glowed with a bright blue light, as if he was a person made of that light. "Exploded," the kun god roared. It opened its mouth as its eyes shot out lightning, which connected to all of the energy flows of the earth veins on the walls of the cavern. In the blink of an eye, amongst Li Jinglong's pained cries, countless tons of blue fire burst out of his hand, reaching out curling flames towards the goo now in the air. The goo now looked around wildly for an escape, and the mass rushed towards the kun god, but the lightning shooting from the kun god's eyes had connected up with the power of the earth veins like a spider's web. The two energies combined into a web of lightning, starting to gather the goo bugs that were exploding in the air. The goo now had nowhere to escape to, and it could only rush towards a corner. The kun god let out another roar. "Hung Jun! Withdraw!" When Hung Jun, who was so drunk that his head kept dipping, heard his name called, he immediately startled awake. He called up the pentacolor sacred light in his hand, sending a slap forward, which just so happened to meet the swarm of goo heading his way. Right after, he seemed to feel as if he was holding down something against the ground. "Don't let go. Burn!" That was another roar from the kun god, and Li Jinglong, holding the sword of wisdom in one hand, pressed his other hand against the ground, sending the blazing flames of energy rushing towards it like the tide. Hung Jun was holding down one goo bug, while the other countless goo bugs were circling around it wildly. As soon as Li Jinglong's earth vein flames came, it swept through like a hurricane and burned all of those goo bugs into ash. With a boom, the ground began to quake. The lightning from the Kun god's eyes disappeared, and Li Jinglong pulled out the sword of wisdom with great effort. His entire body ached with so much pain that he felt feeble, and yet he still walked towards Hung Jun, using the sword as a crutch. Hung Jun was slumped on the floor, drunk out of his mind, but he still had the pentacolor sacred light in his hand, using it to press something down against the ground. "It's been rendered harmless," the Kun god said slowly. "Without the power of the offspring goo, the mother goo alone cannot cause much trouble. It simply needs to be sealed away with a spell." A pitch-black beetle crawled out from a crack between Hung Jun's fingers. Li Jinglong pulled out the wooden box that Chu Yongxi had given him once upon a time, caught the beetle, and put it in the box. "Hung Jun, wake up." Li Jinglong put the box away and lifted Hung Jun in his arms. Hung Jun was a little more clear-headed. Li Jinglong then turned to face the Kun god. Their surroundings were shaking non-stop, and the cavern had already begun to collapse. "We have to get out as quickly as we can," Li Jinglong said. "Hung Jun. The transportation spell. Come onto my back," the Kun god said solemnly. "The throwing knife will be used elsewhere." "Li Jinglong, Kun god, you. We'll talk once we get out," the Kun god said. "Quickly now." Li Bai was the first to climb onto the Kun god's back, saying, "So you're that the Northern Ocean has a fish, which is named, Wada, save me." As soon as Li Jinglong, carrying Hung Jun, climbed onto the Kun god, it immediately rose up, slamming into the roof of the cavern, causing it to collapse. Li Jinglong and Li Bai let out loud shouts simultaneously as it rushed out of the underground cavern. It soon passed through an underground river, even as the waters came rushing in like an angry sea. The three of them were soaked by that cold water and immediately sobered up, and Hung Jun asked, a sudden thought coming to him, "What are we doing?" Hung Jun was blackout drunk, and his last memory was that he and Li Jinglong had entered some strange area. Right after he asked that, the Kun god rammed its head forward, its body shrinking at the same time, explosively breaking out of the bottommost layer of the quarry, returning to the bottom of the cavern where the blood array was. At the same time, it took human form. There was a loud shout, and a whirlwind sprung up from nowhere. The Kun god, Li Bai, Li Jinglong, and Hung Jun were all swept into different corners of the cavern. "I miscalculated," Wanju's voice said coldly. "I never thought that my plans would meet their end at your hands." Yuan Kun let out a cold chuckle, replying in a quiet voice, "If you were born because of the 7 emotions and 6 passions, then you are destined to perish for the sake of those 7 emotions and 6 passions as well." Wanju said coldly, "Then why don't you try me?" Hung Jun pushed himself to his feet, looking towards Wanju, only to see him standing on a huge rock, a golden hoop looped around his arm, which was emitting an endless amount of black chi. "A tainted object." Yuan Kun's voice grew even deeper and hoarse. That object of Wanju's, however, let out a dense fog, which swiftly blanketed all of them. Hung Jun kept panting, and he glanced, seeing Li Jinglong appear out of the fog. His entire body felt as if it was burning. "Hung Jun, call your throwing knife back." Li Jinglong's voice, however, came from his side. Hung Jun suddenly widened his eyes, and with a curl of his fingers, the last throwing knife that had been pinned against the wall of the cavern loosened itself, flying towards that Li Jinglong that Wanju had conjured up. Soundlessly, it pinned itself against the nape of his neck. Wanju immediately transformed into a snow-white goo now, which let out a wild shout, scattered into countless goo bugs, and left Hung Jun. At the same time, the dense fog immediately drew back. In front of Li Bai, Xiang Yu trembled, turning to face that dense fog. And in front of Li Jinglong, the form of another naked Hung Jun disappeared. He grabbed the sword of wisdom and went charging forward. Without needing the Kun god to tell him, he pulled out the sword of wisdom, slashing directly at that swarm of bugs. The power of the heart lamp gathered into white flames, which burned away all of those bugs. "Get that blue mother goo!" Yuan Kun shouted, before lightning shot out of his hands as he began to attack the goo bugs. Hung Jun gathered the 4 throwing knives into one glaive and sent one slash at it. When the light faded, the mother goo immediately exploded in the air, fracturing like a piece of amber. The goo bugs flying through the sky all exploded, turning into dense fog that then dissipated. Huff, huff, Hung Jun gasped for breath, only to smell a sweet fragrance. His entire body began to quiver uncontrollably. "You shouldn't have killed it," Yuan Kun said coldly. "Now you've slowed us down instead, though, ah well." Xiang Yu rushed in rapidly, and she knelt with one knee on the ground, saying, "I beg the Kun god to save the lives of my sisters." Yuan Kun simply let out a cold hum, saying, "Untying a bell requires the one who tied it in the first place." At twilight, Li Jinglong breathed heavily, one arm wrapped around Hung Jun, as they stumbled into the Luoyang exorcism department. Honored benefactors. Wenbin hurriedly rose to help support them, only for Li Jinglong to push him aside possessively. "What's wrong?" "None of your business," Li Jinglong said. "Go away, go away. I can't hold out any longer," Hung Jun moaned, and he reached out a hand to scratch all over his body. Wenbin tried to crane his neck and look inside, only to see another person, his eyes covered with a black cloth, walk in from outside the courtyard. He asked curiously, "It's you?" "Yuan Kun en ed." He came into the hall and sat down without so much as a "by your leave." Wenbin was very confused, and he asked, "Who are you?" Yuan Kun replied coldly, "Shut up, it has nothing to do with you." Wenbin. Not long after, someone else arrived outside the courtyard. This time, it was several helpers, and they pushed 2 carts into the courtyard. A woman's voice asked quietly, "Wenbin." Wenbin let out an exclamation of surprise, and he shouted, "Xiang Yu." Xiang Yu had the helpers unload the peonies from the carts, putting them in their pots into the courtyard. Wenbin said, "Where did you get so many flowers?" Xiang Yu peeked at Yuan Kun sitting in the hall for permission, before saying to Wenbin, "All you have to do is raise them. There's a few pots in there where the peonies have had their roots chopped off, so make sure that you take care of them well, don't let them die." "Alrighty," Wenbin chuckled. "Taking care of flowers is my specialty." "Your Majesty," Xiang Yu asked Yuan Kun uneasily, coming to a stop outside the hall. "No need to mind Li Bai any longer," Yuan Kun said. "Let him stay in the Tenli of the Heavenly River for now. Then, the other 2. You won't be able to cure the poison," Yuan Kun said. "That poison that Wanju emitted before he died will delay them for at least 3 whole days, but after it passes, they will be all right." Xiang Yu nodded, saying, "I'll go make food for everyone." Yuan Kun simply sat quietly in the hall. After Wenbin finished moving the flower pots, he counted them, there were a whole 108. He then went to the backyard to help Xiang Yu out, as well as to ask what exactly had happened. Xiang Yu, however, simply made up a few jokes to get a laugh out of him, and Wenbin felt very embarrassed at that, so he didn't ask any further. That night, Xiang Yu lit the lamps and laid out the food, before asking, "Those 2? "No need to mind them," Yuan Kun said expressionlessly. "You'll just need to prepare some congee tomorrow morning and bring it to them." Xiang Yu didn't know if she should laugh or cry. Wenbin asked curiously, "Are the 2 of them?" Xiang Yu reprimanded him. "Eat your food, what are you asking all these questions for?" Wenbin tacitly understood what she was hinting at. In the middle of the night, Hung Jun had fallen soundly asleep. In the dream, countless scenes winked into existence, before instantly vanishing, his mother holding him when he was young, singing quietly to him, his father holding his hands, teaching him to walk, little Li Jinglong with his arm slung over his shoulder, searching under a parasol tree for cicadas that had molted. "I really envy you, you've been to so many places," little Li Jinglong said. "But every time we go somewhere, Dad and Mom never let me go outside," young Hung Jun replied. "No matter where I go, the only thing that I see is a wall," little Li Jinglong said. "In the future, Ba. One day, when I'm in charge, I'll take you out to play, to every place on this earth that we haven't been to, and I'll take you to eat good food." "Where will we go first?" little Hung Jun asked. Very seriously, little Li Jinglong let little Hung Jun pick first. Though little Hung Jun had moved many times, he had never learned of the splendor of the human world, and after he thought about it, he finally said, "I think Chang'an is pretty good." "Let's go to Luoyang," little Li Jinglong said. "They all say that Luoyang is the divine capital, it's the reflection of the heavens on this earth, and there's also the Tenli of the heavenly river." "Then Luoyang it is," little Hung Jun replied. In the dream, Hung Jun seemed to recall something. For a time, it seemed as if he was in a dream, but it was also reality, and distinguishing between the two was difficult. He had never expected, however, that when Li Jinglong made good on his promise, the Tenli of the heavenly river that they arrived at was starkly different from the one that they had imagined when they were children. Hung Jun's strength had run dry, and the poison that Wanju had given off when it exploded had weakened a lot. However, as he was sleeping, he couldn't help shifting a little uneasily, instantly waking Li Jinglong up. With that, the two of them began to talk, before they then did it again, coming full circle. The next morning, Li Jinglong was wrapped in a bathrobe, his chest bared as he walked out. Upon seeing that there was breakfast placed outside the room, he carried it in and ate it with Hung Jun, before then spending the entire rest of the day with their bedroom door tightly shut once more. When night fell, Li Jinglong came out carrying Hung Jun. He started up the pump in the backyard and washed them off, before carrying him back into the room. It wasn't until early in the morning of the third day that Hung Jun leaned up against the bed, the red flush on his face basically gone. "I can't go on anymore, if we keep going like this, I'll die first before we expel the poison." "It's all right now," Li Jinglong said, smiling. "Was it really that tiring?" "Of course." Hung Jun felt as if they had basically never stopped, and his body was a complete mess from there several times. Li Jinglong wiped it clean for him, before they heard the sounds of Wenbin and Xiangyu chatting outside. Li Bai seemed to have already returned. Li Jinglong kissed Hung Jun's ear, helped him put on his clothes, and led him outside. In the main hall of the Luoyang exorcism department, Xiangyu laid out breakfast, smiling merrily. Li Jinglong was still a little embarrassed, and he took a few gulps of water. The color of Li Bai's face also didn't look too good, and when he sat down, he nodded towards the rest of them. He didn't ask to drink any more wine either, instead joining them in eating breakfast. Hung Jun was already so hungry that he was almost unable to bear it, when Yuan Kun remarked, "Qing Xiang said that you are reckless," and he was right. "If you had not killed that gu now, then these past few days would not have been wasted." Li Jinglong replied, "There is also merit in something that has been broken. There will always be changing factors in every single thing, we simply do not know if these changes will be good or bad." Yuan Kun nodded absently, and after thinking deeply for a moment, he said, "Now that I think about it, that is indeed the case." Hung Jun. Hung Jun had lost them once again. He had a bellyful of questions, yet with a look, Li Jinglong stopped him. He indicated that he should eat first, and they would talk in a bit. Xiangyu filled Hung Jun's bowl with congee, handing it to him with both hands, saying, "Many thanks to our honored benefactor." Hung Jun hurried to wave his hands around, saying it was no trouble. "At least right now," he didn't really understand the twists and turns of the situation, and he asked curiously, "Did you two know each other a long time ago?" Xiang Yu said to Wen Bin, "You go outside and buy some fermented bean curd." Wen Bin obediently did so. He simply took the money with a smile on his face, and left. "Wen Bin and I have known each other for 4 years already," Xiang Yu said. "He is a gardener at the Seven Li Pavilion." It was only with that Hung Jun understood. Xiang Yu had been one of the flower Yao on Mount Bema, and the valleys of Mount Bema were filled with peonies. End chapter. Legend of Exorcism. Chapter 108. Fate determined by the heavens. When Wu Zhao had been in power, Luoyang's love for peonies had immediately become a craze. There were often gardeners who went up the nearby Mount Bema to search for high-quality peonies, which they transplanted into the peony gardens of Luoyang, and the first time that Xiang Yu had seen Wen Bin was on Mount Bema. That day, he had gone up the mountain to search for some rare specimens. "Did he fall off a cliff?" Li Jinglong asked. "That's not it," Xiang Yu replied. "He had brought wine with him, and after he got drunk, he laid down on a rock." A young, handsome gardener, in that brilliant blossoming spring light, his clothes disheveled, lying on that rock. With a single distant glance, Xiang Yu had fallen in love, and she observed his movements for a long time. She saw how he searched bitterly across the mountain for flowers of unsurpassed beauty, which he then grafted and transplanted back to the city. "Li Jinglong, so you revealed yourself before him, acquainting yourself with him." "Xiang Yu, I did not. I grew curious, so I followed him back to the city." Hung Jun. And later, Wen Bin brought Xiang Yu's true body back to Luoyang, planting it in a pot in his house. He watered Xiang Yu every day, and Xiang Yu found this very amusing. At night, she would take human form, organizing the things scattered about his house. Wen Bin didn't know about this either, and the human and flowers spent a good chunk of the year interacting silently with each other like this. "Then you were caught as a Yao?" Li Jinglong asked once more. "No," Xiang Yu replied. Hung Jun remarked, "You've missed the mark 3 times with your guesses, what a rarity." Li Jinglong pressed one hand to his forehead, waving his hand, indicating that he wouldn't keep guessing. A whole year after Wen Bin had transplanted Xiang Yu went by. In the spring of the 2nd year, Xiang Yu could bear it no longer, and she blossomed. And Wen Bin slowly fell in love with her, with a peony flower, so every night he would sit alone under the light of the moon, talking absent-mindedly to this flower in its pot. Xiang Yu said dejectedly, "But Yao have Yao powers, and humans don't have any magic. In the end, Yao and humans are unable to walk the same path. If we were to be together, I would cause him to slowly be infected by the poison in my body, and he would not die a good death." Since the heavens had decreed that it be so and refused to allow any love between humans and Yao, after I blossomed that night, I thought instead about leaving him in the end. So, I ended up going back to Mount Bema and to live as I had been before. When Xiang Yu returned to Mount Bema, however, she found that her original valley had been taken over by a group of apes, and their leader was naturally the Gunao Wanju. Wanju had brought the devil Qi of Mara, and with the power of debauchery, had awakened the entire valley of peonies, causing their cultivation levels to rise swiftly so they could take on human forms. Originally, they had to cultivate for hundreds of years, and only after absorbing the essence of night and day could they turn into mature peonies, and thus gain new forms. For the sake of freeing her sisters, she confronted Wanju directly. Naturally, she was not an opponent to the Gunao, and after being subdued, she was brought to Luoyang. Wanju sent the monkey Yao to keep watch on them. He also hired some gardeners who could appropriately take care of the peonies. And when Wen Bin saw this white peony that he had lost and gained again, he was happy beyond belief. A few years passed like that and Xiang Yu lay dormant as she waited for a chance. It was a pity that the heavens cared not for the wishes of mortals, and Wanju's Yao powers were very strong to begin with, so with the support of Mara, he ended up turning the group of peonies into young women for the brothel, and they followed him into the Tenli of the heavenly river, where he opened up the divine fragrance of the peony. One night, Xiang Yu found that she could not stop thinking about Wen Bin, so she took human form and came to see him. Wen Bin sensed that, but just as he was about to pour out his heart, Wan Ju found them, and he brought her into the brothel. But Wen Bin followed her tracks all the way to the Tenli of the heavenly river, where he fell prey to Wan Ju's lust chi. Xiang Yu had no other choice, and she injected the Yao poison into his body. Wen Bin had then left again. Xiang Yu tried to come up with a plan to chase after him, but no matter what she did, she had no way to cure Wen Bin, not until Hung Jun brought Wen Bin back to the exorcism department. At that time, I kept feeling like there was someone hiding in the shadows spying on us, Li Jinglong explained. I thought, could it be that in the enemy's camp, there was someone on our side? Later, when Wan Ju showed that he did not know anything about our movements, that confirmed my guess. What you say is correct, Xiang Yu said, nodding. This time you've guessed right, Hung Jun said. Li Bai asked, what if it's a blind cat running into a dead mouse? Xiang Yu began to smile. Li Jinglong, however, felt very awkward. Xiang Yu explained, when Wan Ju sent out the monkey Yao to watch your movements, I got rid of all of them. The Kun god asked solemnly, since the causes and results of this matter have been settled, what are you planning to do? Xiang Yu bit her lips, and a long time later, she said, I wish to be together with him for the rest of our lives, even if that will also have been of our own choosing. Hung Jun didn't understand, but Li Jinglong said, you can let it go, but he may not be able to. Right. A blush spread across Xiang Yu's face. You men understand other men the most. When Li Jinglong heard that, he glanced at Hung Jun. Hung Jun. Li Bai explained to Hung Jun, between the two of them, one is a Yao and the other is a human, so they won't be able to consummate their coupling in bed. You need to teach them how to cure the poison. Oh. The fog of confusion in Hung Jun's brain cleared. Xiang Yu's face was so red that it was almost dripping with blood, and she said quietly, thank you, benefactor. Hung Jun continued, I'll write up the medicinal recipe for you too. Wait, Yuan Kun suddenly interjected mildly. Flower Yao, everything that grows in this world has its fated lifespan. Even if for the sake of this temporary pleasure, you will die tomorrow, will you do the same without any hesitation? Hung Jun thought, it isn't that serious, right? He glanced at Yuan Kun, then at Xiang Yu. Xiang Yu, however, seemed to have long since come to terms with it, and she said, as long as I can be with him for one day, that will be good. Yuan Kun continued, causes and effects are interlinked, and one leads to another. Meeting Mahamayuri and Akalanatha means that you were destined to do so. It is fate, but it is also a variable, as long as you have made your decision and do not regret it in the coming days. What will happen? Hung Jun asked. Yuan Kun did not reply. Li Jinglong shook his head slightly. There were many things about the variables of fate in this world that definitely could not be voiced. I've decided, Xiang Yu said. Yuan Kun then said to Hung Jun, give her the recipe of the antidote. Hung Jun copied over the recipe for her, and Xiang Yu walked deliberately into the hall, kneeling in front of Hung Jun. Hung Jun hurried to pull her to her feet, but Yuan Kun said to Hung Jun, kowtow to her in return, to return the courtesy. Go. Hung Jun found this very out of the blue, but he did not defy Yuan Kun's orders. After all, to him, Yuan Kun and Qing Xiang were of his father's generation, and they had their identities as Yao King as well. Hung Jun knelt down properly, kowtowing in return to Xiang Yu, and they each kowtowed 3 times. Dimly, Li Jinglong sensed something strange, but Xiang Yu didn't ask any further. Instead, she smiled and asked, since this has been fated to be, then I must thank the Kun god. Yuan Kun replied with a short nod. A thought came to Li Jinglong, and he asked, "After this, where will you go?" "Naturally, we'll find somewhere in the city of Chang'an to settle down in," Xiang Yu said. "The weather there is pretty good, and my sisters have also had their vitalities damaged because of the Gunao's devastation. I hope that we will be able to remain in the exorcism department for a few days, and after they have recovered from their wounds. Why don't you two stay in the exorcism department for the time being?" Li Jinglong proposed. "Either way, no one is here usually, and you'll also be able to help us look after this place. If anything happens, just send word to Chang'an." Upon hearing those words, Xiang Yu was overjoyed. She moved to kowtow again in gratitude, and Li Jinglong accepted that steadfastly. This time, Yuan Kun didn't have Li Jinglong return the gesture. Hung Jun, a smile in his eyes, studied Li Jinglong, before he recalled what Yuan Kun had said before. Perhaps it would be unknowingly, or perhaps she would save his life in some way, but either way, that was why he and Xiang Yu had kowtowed to each other. Since matters are already settled here, it's time to return to Chang'an, Yuan Kun said. With that, Li Jinglong understood that Yuan Kun had something to say, so he immediately went to pack their things, letting Hung Jun and Li Bai follow him. They would set off that very day. When Yuan Kun left Luoyang, he leaped into the Luo River, turning into a huge kun, taking them along to ride the currents as they headed north along the Luo River, entering the Yellow River. This was the first time that Hung Jun had the chance to sit on a Yao King's back, and he couldn't stop exclaiming in surprise. Li Bai chuckled too and said, "In this life, I have visited famous mountains and vast rivers, seeking immortals yet finding none, but now, in the central plains themselves, I have witnessed such a miracle. How wonderful this is!" "Don't rejoice too early," the Kun god said coldly. "When we get back, it will be time for you to sniff the Lihun pollen." Li Bai didn't understand, but the corners of Hung Jun's mouth twitched as he glanced at Li Jinglong. Li Jinglong indicated that he would take care of it. As time passed, the moon rose over the eastern mountains, turning the Luo River into a patch of silver light. When the Kun god approached the Yellow River, the wilderness spread all around them into the depths of the night, not a single smoke trail to be seen. With a single leap, it flew into the sky, rising high in the night sky, melding into the sea of clouds. "Wow!" Hung Jun exclaimed. Li Bai sat near the Kun god's tail, drinking wine all alone. Worries weighed heavily on Li Jinglong's heart as he and Hung Jun sat shoulder to shoulder on the Kun god's head, the wind whistling around them. "Kun god." Li Jinglong was finally unable to hold back from asking his questions. "Are you returning to Chang'an with us?" "I am not returning," Yuan Kun's voice said in reply. "I am injured, and am no match for Xia Yu." Hung Jun replied, "No way, you're not his match." In his world, Chongming was the strongest, and even though Qing Xiang ranked second after him, there was no way he lagged too far behind. The Kun god and Qing Xiang were probably equally matched in power, and yet these three great Yaogwai were also wary of Yang Kuozhong. Why exactly was that? A glowing young man appeared on the top of the Kun's head. That was Yuan Kun, and he stood with his back to the two of them, facing the vast sea of clouds. He had taken a human form with the use of the soul-splitting technique, so that he could talk with them. "Xia Yu has a valuable treasure of the world in his grasp," Yuan Kun replied. "That artifact possesses the ability to turn back time and undo causes and effects, which just so happens to disrupt all the futures that I can predict. That is why I cannot predict when he will appear, nor can I foresee causes and effects that he has thrown into disorder." Li Jinglong said, "That is exactly what I wanted to ask for your advice on." "I know what you want to ask for advice on," Yuan Kun said. "When I handed the heart lamp over to Qing Xiang, I saw that you two would cross swords in the midst of that torrential downpour." Hung Jun. Li Jinglong held his breath at that, and for a long while, he couldn't find something to say. Everything that had happened back then was within Yuan Kun's predictions. Hung Jun asked, his voice trembling, "Kun God, was all of this arranged by you?" At that, Li Jinglong's expression grew a little uncomfortable, as if once he had learned that his destiny was actually under someone's control, this was now a cruel mockery. Causes and effects give birth to each other and repeat in that cycle, Yuan Kun said. 2,000 years ago, I grew acquainted with Zhuangzi, and thus gained the power to deduce causes and effects. You humans say that the plans of the heavens cannot be divulged, but when you stand in front of crossroads after crossroads, whether it be destiny or fate, all of those are no more than a kind of divination. Saying this, he turned his head back, asking, "The flying star divination method, have you learned that before?" Li Jinglong was frowning deeply, and he said, "I know a little." Hung Jun knew that the flying star method was something that Fangxi during the Han period used to calculate the supposed 4 seasons and destiny, but it had long since been lost. Yuan Kun walked towards them, sitting down with his legs crossed in front of them. At this moment, he appeared in front of them in his soul form, so the black cloth over his eyes had vanished without a trace. What replaced it were the shining stars in his eyes. One of the 9 palaces must be fixed, which signifies the activation of the cause. The rest of the palaces are then calculated out, intersecting with one another and giving rise to further changes. One after another, no matter how trivial or major the matter in question is, they will all play out continually, Yuan Kun said. Hung Jun gaining the heart lamp was a cause, going down the mountain was a cause, capturing the Yao was a cause. As these causes interact with one another, they give rise to changes. As long as the calculations were done properly, then he would be destined to run into Li Jinglong in the alley of the city. It wasn't until Li Jinglong heard these words that he grew slightly more all right with it, and he said, "So are the pointers that you give Hung Jun also within the causes and effects?" Yuan Kun replied leisurely, "No. I am not within the causes and effects, but the fate between you and Hung Jun has long since been destined. If you wish to trace back to find the origin of that fate, its roots are already planted deep. I am simply adding a counter to this 9-palace grid, then moving this abacus in response. This counter is the heart lamp," Yuan Kun said at the end. It was in this moment that Hung Jun seemed to have realized something. What Yuan Kun had revealed seemed like some very profound mystery of the world. Li Jinglong, however, didn't give him a chance to think closely on that. He asked in response, "When did that fate arise?" "When the 2 wisdom kings fought an earth-shaking battle with the various deities 4,000 years ago, Yuan Kun said. "Li Jinglong, you can only ask me 3 questions. You'd best think them through." Li Jinglong didn't understand. "Why?" "Because in this cage of calculations, every person only has the chance to throw in their own cause 3 times. Yuan Kun raised a hand, and with a shua, there appeared 9 by 9 glowing squares. Thousands of counters rolled around in the cage, and this golden cage kept expanding outwards, until it blanketed the earth and sky. It seemed to have even absorbed the power of the divine and earthly veins, and the counters rolled and leapt around inside, colliding with one another. That was the first question, Yuan Kun said. Hung Jun wailed, "That can't count, can it?" "Of course this counts," Yuan Kun replied coldly and calmly. "Do you think that this answer is completely useless to him?" Li Jinglong took a deep breath. Originally, he had wanted to argue, but when Yuan Kun said that, he calmed down instead. Perhaps, in his explanation, Yuan Kun had revealed some principle for how destiny played out, which would also allow him to understand the general gist of how to go about undoing a future that was already determined. When he looked at Yuan Kun again, however, Yuan Kun had a look of appreciation in his eyes, as if he had guessed what Li Jinglong was thinking. He replied, "If you are smart enough, then remember what I said to you when we first met." "A wish," Li Jinglong murmured. "All kinds of fate are born from a single wish." Yuan Kun nodded once. Li Jinglong immediately understood the key point of this, which he had not spoken out loud. Every wish that suddenly came into being was a counter that was added to this huge cage, and it would undo a certain destined result, and if he added in the involvement between Hung Jun and Mara, perhaps this future would be more malleable than he thought. For what reason is a devil born? Li Jinglong asked. Devils are the selves of humans, Yao, and gods, Yuan Kun said. They are the darkness that has been abandoned. The 7 emotions and 6 desires, the 3,000 nightmares of the world, birth, old age, death, and illness, all kinds of suffering that are out of our control. The desire for cultivation requires one to devoid themselves of their desire, and that abandoned desire will remain in the world. When one lets go of their regrets and returns to the cycles of reincarnation, those regrets will remain in the world. Sages speak of slaughtering the 3 corpses to become a sage, and those 3 corpses remain in the world, so on and so forth, and those become devil chi. But the divine and earthly veins have the power to purify those, Hung Jun said. No, that should be the case. Hung Jun was afraid of adding a right, which would be counted as another question, so he hurried to change the end of his sentence. This devil chi must return to the divine and earthly veins to be purified and circulated, Yuan Kun said. And how will the devil chi that has been spread out across the divine land be gathered? The devil seed, Li Jinglong said, his voice shaking. 4,000 years ago, Mahamayuri and Akalanatha freed all living beings from suffering the pain of the devil chi, Yuan Kun said slowly, turning to face the vast sea of clouds. Mahamayuri used his own body as the seed, becoming the seed of Mara. Every millennia, he gathers the devil chi in the world. And Akalanatha then reincarnates, and with the 6 artifacts, destroys Mara. The moment that the power of Akalanatha destroys the devil seed, that causes the devil chi to return to the divine and earthly veins, allowing that power to re-enter that locked door. And 1,000 years later, when devil chi grows heavy once more and the divine land overflows with resentment, Mahamayuri once again reincarnates. Like this, the cycle comes full circle once more, continuing on endlessly. In that instant, Li Jinglong thought of a sentence that Yuan Kun had spoken in the Luoyang exorcism department. Causes and effects are interlinked, one leading to another. Being able to meet Mahamayuri and Akalanatha means that you were destined to do so. The next question, Yuan Kun said mildly. Li Jinglong pondered for a long while. He looked towards Hung Jun, then back to Yuan Kun. This is your last question, Yuan Kun said. Why do you still not ask about the future? Li Jinglong replied, I don't wish to ask about the future. Yuan Kun simply watched Li Jinglong calmly. Li Jinglong suddenly said, when I do not yet know of the future, I can still believe in the saying that nothing is destined in one's life. End chapter.